Welcome to Influence of Sports, where passion meets precision. As I'm your host, Ed, diving deep into the plays, players, and stories shaping the game. And today's video or live stream, actually going live with it, talking about AEW WrestleDream, which was a great pay-per-view, in my opinion. Took place yesterday. I watched it earlier today. Didn't watch it live. Had a super tiring Saturday. Had to get caught up on some other stuff. For the most part, got pretty caught up on it. Gonna move my phone to the side so I'm not distracted by anything. Okay, this. Okay, there we go. We're talking about AEW WrestleDream. Great pay-per-view. Yeah, and at the end of it, I'll get my overall rating. And I'll just talk about each match from the pre-show to the main event to different segments that happen throughout the show. Some things, and then you're going to see it at the bottom of the screen. As you see, the like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you do that. Share the video as well. Share the live stream for other people to see. And I don't have any. I'm wearing an NBA hoodie. I don't have any AEW hoodies. I have an MJF shirt and the AEW title, but no other. And then the NBA season's going to start soon anyways. It's starting this Tuesday, so I might as well throw on the NBA hoodie for the next few days. Just rock this, then change it up once the season starts. But to get into the important stuff, let's start with the first match, which was, so the pre-show was the tailgate brawl. They had 4 matches on the pre-show for AEW WrestleDream. First match was the Death Riders taking on the Conglomeration, which the Death Riders consist of Willa Yuta, Fabio Castagnoli, Pac, and new member Daniel Garcia, who just recently joined, taking on the Conglomeration, which consisted of Tomohiro Ishii, Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, and Orange Cassidy. This was a decent 8-man tag team match. It's a pre-show. Basic, it wasn't nothing too crazy. Roger Strong, I was surprised that he came out with the Conglomeration because Roger Strong and Kyle O'Reilly kind of had this back and forth where Roger doesn't like the fact that Kyle is a part of 2 factions and 2 groups. So it's a very interesting dynamic. It didn't play a part in them losing. The Death Riders were just a better team, and they ended up getting the win. They worked well together. I think even towards the end of the match, when the Death Riders won the match, Roger Strong didn't rush into the ring and try to save his team from getting pinned. Even if he was a second late, a little bit of effort would have been nice for him to show. It's like he didn't really show any effort towards that. The Death Riders ended up getting the win, but this match made sense. They had been happening. They had multiple brawl segments leading up to this, and the Death Riders they weren't going to lose this match, especially with the result that happened later with John Moxley having a match as well. So, because it's very rare that they all lose in the same night. I don't think that's happened with the Death Riders. If they have multiple matches, at least one of them is winning if they have multiple matches in the same night. Because they've had, and sometimes even go undefeated when they have matches in the same night. But it's rare that the Death Riders lose their matches if they have 7 matches the same night. That's a rare occurrence because they still got to establish them as the top heel faction, which is what they are at this point. They've been the top heel faction in AEW. And some you could even argue the top heel faction of the year, being the Trios champions. Even though they didn't defend them, they did win them. And them not defending them was part of Pac not being there. And that was, Pac came back in January. So I say last year you couldn't make that argument because they weren't defending them. But this year they were defending them. John Moxley had a great world championship reign. But not to digress too much, but this was a good overall match, a good way to get the pre-show started, people getting their snacks, stuff like that. So obviously it's not something you need on the main card, but it's something cool for the people that's already in the crowd for the pre-show. Something cool to see some of their favorites wrestle, because I know a lot of people rock with Pac and AEW. So yeah, it was a good tag team match. Moving on to the next match, it was Hook and Eddie Kingston teaming up to take on the Frat House, which don't ask me who's in the Frat House because I have no clue. It's a terrible name. I think the other name they had was the Vibe House or something like that. Either way, these guys are trash. I don't know why this. Apparently, Hook and Eddie Kingston have become a tag team. The AEW never explained why Hook didn't want to team with the Ops again. Like, I get that Powerhouse Hobbs was the last minute replacement, but they had to make that happen because Hook wasn't able to go, so they had to find somebody to replace him. So they never really explained why Hook was angry to begin with, and now it's just teaming with Eddie Kingston for some reason, which don't make sense. And you're trying to build them as a credible tag team and have them beat these randoms. Like, I know they going into a feud with LFI soon, And you don't have to have a match with LFI immediately. You got to build it up. But you could have had them go against the Outrunners, even though they're two face tag teams. At the end of the day, it's not like the Outrunners are doing much. And I'm not even a fan of the Outrunners. They're one of my least favorite. They're probably my least favorite tag team. But they're way more credible than the Frat House. They've had matches. They had a good match against the Hurt Syndicate earlier on in the year. It was a solid match. It wasn't the best ever, but they put on a solid match. They had solid promos going into it. So even if you don't have a story for the match, just get on somebody you can put in the ring and you can say, oh, this could be a solid match, because I get they got to build chemistry between Hook and Eddie Kingston. But have them go against a tag team that already has chemistry, show the growing pains, show maybe even have them lose, because them getting the win here doesn't mean nothing when they're beating up on such a trash tag team that nobody really knows. So Hook and Eddie Kingston getting the win, it makes sense. But how does that propel them to what? I know they're going to go into a feud with LFI, and maybe that's maybe they'll have that match at Full Gear, because I don't know what title. LFI has some type of titles. I think they're from Ring of Honor, if I'm not mistaken. So they could be cool. So I guess it's going to be a good way to feature LFI. Like, they're featuring people, but certain people just don't need to be featured. Like, the Frat House didn't need to have a match on that card. Eddie Kingston and Hook, they could have won and just not had that match. And then this match made the pre-show go over time, because you had 2 more matches following this. You had a pre-show with 4 matches, and one of those matches bled into the main card, which I'm going to get into. I will get into that and why that doesn't make sense. But going into the next match, it was a women's tag team match between Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne. And I just realized I spelled Megan Bayne's name wrong. And so I'm going to correct that right now. Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne versus Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale. This was a good tag team match. I enjoyed this from start to finish. Like I said, this made sense. They had a story going into it. They've been building for this the last few months. Harley Cameron got her, Megan Bayne broke Harley Cameron's nose earlier in the year. Mistakenly, she didn't do it on purpose, but they used that in the storyline. And Harley and Willow, they had matching gear, as opposed to Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne, who didn't. And they've been a tag team, but their gear was so separate from each other, which I guess don't really matter, because they haven't shown signs of them splitting up. And that's very interesting that the team that isn't an official tag team is the ones with matching gear. But Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford, who worked together for a majority of the year, aren't wearing matching gear. That didn't make sense to me. It doesn't take away anything from the match. It just confused me a little bit, because I don't know if this is a way to tease signs of a split or what. Who knows? Because the tag team title tournament is coming up for the women's in AEW. The bracket going to be announced on Wednesday, so I'm excited to see who's going to be competing for the women's tag team titles in AEW. I think it's a cool concept that they're introducing. But back to the match, because I know I got way off topic from the match. But it was a fun tag team match. Like I said, Willow, she had a great clothesline versus Megan Bayne. And then Willow hit the power bomb on Penelope Ford to secure the win. And yeah, Willow and Harley Cameron ended up getting the win. It was a good tag team match. Then you had another tag team match, a pre-show full of tag team matches, which I was like, what? And it wasn't even a problem. Like, I don't even think that took away from it. It was just one of the matches didn't really need, which was the Hook and Eddie Kingston match. But the 4th match was FTR versus Jet Speed, and this started with just 6 minutes left on the pre-show, so it bled into the main show. So this wasn't even supposed to be the first match. This wasn't supposed to start the show. It went over time. So you just can't have that happen. I did knock down the Hook match, maybe bump down the show rating a little bit, in my opinion, because it was just felt unnecessary. Then this FTR match also made me bump down the rating a little bit. And for the rest of the show, it was nothing. For the rest of the show following that, it was only one thing that made me bump down the rating slightly, which I still gave it a good rating. But it was just one. It was 2 things on the main on the pre-show, and just one thing on the main show. So it wasn't crazy. But back to the match at hand, FTR versus Jet Speed, started with 6 minutes left in the pre-show, which was interesting, because it's like, if you start with 6 minutes left in the pre-show, both of these, what the story they've been telling, they're not going to have a 6-minute tag team match. That just wouldn't make sense. So then It was instant action for Mike Bailey. Like Mike Bailey, he just looked great. He was doing a good job in the match, just doing his thing. Kevin Knight, Kevin Knight did something. He did like some type of he made Stokely and Cash. Yeah, he made Stokely and Cash Wheeler collide with each other. I don't know why that was waking on my mind. He made them knock heads with each other, and then Mike Bailey delivered some nice kicks to Dax, I think. And said Mike Bailey just had a good overall showing in the match. I feel like he did. He had the best work. Him and Dax had a slap war, but Dax Harwood ended up pinning Mike Bailey for the win, and it was due to Stokely holding Dax's feet while under the rope. Now he had not Dax's feet, but holding Mike Bailey's feet while the referee wasn't looking. And so that was a good match, and it was a good win. FTR made sense for him to get the win, but I think it would have made more sense if this was a number one contenders match to determine, and we had a number one contenders match for a different time later. But FTR, and I'm sure this feud isn't over, but FTR and the Hurt Syndicate, not the Hurt Syndicate, FTR and Brodito haven't went one-on-one, if I'm not mistaken. I know they've been in matches together, but I don't think they've had a one-on-one match. So I think FTR will be the perfect heels for them to face, and they have to win it because they keep promoting that they're the greatest tag team of this generation. So you have to win the tag team titles one more time if you're gonna keep saying that. So you got to make sure that you are able to win those titles. But moving on to the next match, it was Jamie Hayter taking on Tekla. Okay. I was trying to do something. Okay. Jamie Hayter took on Tekla in a one-on-one match. What purpose? It really wasn't a purpose. It's just Tekla, Scott Blue, and Julia Hart just trying to establish dominance as a faction. So them going after former world champion and Jamie Hayter makes the most sense. And then there was no interference in this match. Nobody got involved, which was great to see because some of these matches with Tekla had started to become repetitive with her and the Sisters of Sin, with them constantly getting involved and get to their faction, but the matches don't need to be repetitive. And this was different. It wasn't repetitive at all. Jamie Hayter delivered a few chops to start the match. And then and she had Tekla wrapped into like the barricade where she was able to chop her a few times. A good majority of the match took place on the outside of the ring. The ref let a lot slide. Like the count wasn't super crazy. Like they made sure to get back in the ring. Like it wasn't a situation where they had to get back in the ring at 9. It was usually around 7 or 8. I feel like, but a good majority of this match happened on the outside of the ring, and Tekla and Jamie Hayter just went at it. I think in Tekla talking trash to, I think that was Jamie Hayter's mom, ringside, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's not her mom. I know it's somebody close to Jamie Hayter. I wasn't able to confirm that, but taunting her, that made sense. And then Tekla, she pinned Jamie Hayter multiple times. The only problem was she wasn't really hooking her shoulders, which made it easier for Jamie Hayter to kick out, while it was still hard because the multiple pin attempts in a row has you exert more energy. But at the same time, if you're not hooking her shoulders, you're probably not going to win the match, which that's what ended up costing Tekla. Because Jamie Hayter hit the Haterade. She only had to hit it once, and she was able to get the win. And then Queen Aminata came out there to celebrate with her, while Scott Blue and Julia Hart were at the top of the rim waiting for Tekla to get back there with them so they can go regroup and get prepared for Wednesday for whatever they're going to do. But if they cause another attack or put a promo or whatever, but Jamie Hayter and Queen Aminata, like I said, Queen Aminata came out there to celebrate with her. I feel like they're going to be in this tag team tournament, and they can make a really cool tag team. I think they have good chemistry with each other. The promos have been good. The stuff against Julia Hart, Scott Blue, and Tekla has been entertaining. So I think it's going to be. I like what I'm seeing from Queen Aminata and Jamie Hayter. Jamie Hayter's last 2 matches have been really good. The match against Scott Blue on Collision was really great as well. I enjoyed that. And so I've been rocking with Jamie Hayter these last few matches, and I think her and Queen Aminata, they could be a tag team, even though it's a makeshift tag team, and they kind of just came together based off the premise of hating another faction. I think it's going to work really well because they actually seem to be like cool with each other, and they're showing that. So I like what they could do. I like where this is going, and I'm excited to see which tag teams are in the women's tag team tournament. Because it's another, and this is going to be constantly brought up throughout this recap. Because it's another team that I got to talk about that could be coming together for the tag team tournament. But we'll get there when we get there. The next match was the Young Bucks taking on Jurassic Express. Great match, really great tag team match. I have fun watching this one. It was for $500,000. The Young Bucks, they showed on the Titantron, and they only had $32.17. Caught them to $32.17. Young Bucks, which was hilarious, or Bucks. They didn't put the Young in there. They replaced the Young with the money, and they just caught them the 32-17 Bucks, which was hilarious. Jack Perry, he gave the Bucks the middle finger. Luchasaurus had some good shots. He looked good. He did what a big man should, just dominating and just looking great in the match. And the Young Bucks, that once again displayed great tag team chemistry. Something that they always do, but you always have to praise it because they do it at such a consistent basis. Some guys get lazy. Some guys don't want to put in that work, and the Young Bucks have constantly did it. The Young Bucks and Jack Perry, this story's been really cool that they've been telling. And with Jack Perry teaming up with Luchasaurus again, with Jurassic Express coming back together, it's working out well. Even though it's not clear who the heel or face is in this feud between Jurassic Express and the Young Bucks, they're making it work because the story is already there. If the story is already there, you can have a feud where it's face versus face or heel versus heel, or if you don't even know what the role of either team or person is, but it just makes sense because even though they're both betrayed faces, it feels like, but had times where they're betrayed heels, it's still working because the story is already there. This is something that was already set in stone. It's something that, this is very personal. It's not like, he's a heel, I'm a face, let's fight each other. It's something, this is deeper than a heel versus face. This has a really great story behind it. The ref was distracted at one point. Jack Perry avoiding the clothesline to tag in Luchasaurus. He rolled through it and then got the hot tag to Luchasaurus to get him into the match. And like I said, great tag team chemistry from the Bucks. Jack Perry was able to avoid the first Bucks trigger. He wasn't able to avoid the second one, but Luchasaurus came in to save the matchup and keep it alive. And then Jurassic Express, they hit this really cool tag team move, which I don't know the name of, and they ended up winning the match off of that. So Jack Perry and Luchasaurus secured the win. Now, I didn't see this part, but I heard that the Don Callis family and the Young Bucks came out there, and the Young Bucks following the match attacked Jurassic Express, but Kenny Omega made the save once again. And so I think they don't really have nothing for Kenny Omega to do right now. So him being in a feud with the Bucks, I get it, but you don't have Hangman, which I guess they did the Hangman and Kenny match versus the Bucks already. Yeah, they did, but I feel like that's another story that you could delve deeper into if Hangman wasn't world champion, or if, they could do Matt Jackson versus Hangman one-on-one. I think that'd be cool having both of the Young Bucks individually go up against Hangman. That's a story for a different day. We don't got to dive deep into that. But this match overall, the Young Bucks weren't able to get the $500,000 that they most much definitely needed. Weren't able to get it, but it is what it is. Maybe next time. Maybe they can get it next time. This time, just wasn't it. And now the number one contenders match that I was talking about to determine the next challenger for the trios titles. The Hurt Syndicate taking on the Demand for the third time. This was a trilogy. Both teams had one win against each other, with the Demand winning most recently. And it was a Tornado Trios match this time. It started off with instant chaos, and that's what the whole match consisted of. Like, didn't get too many notes because the match, it told a good story. Instant chaos, both of these teams want to destroy each other. There's deep hatred between Ricochet and the Hurt Syndicate, and then Ricochet got the Gates of Agony behind them, as they want to follow on his lead. Somebody who's been a champion before in various other promotions. I don't think the Gates of Agony have ever won the AEW tag team titles. I don't even know if they ever won the Ring of Honor tag titles. They might have, but Ricochet leading the faction. This is the best character work that Ricochet has done in his career, in my opinion. He looks great. Instant chaos. Lashley got sent through a few tables, but then the most important part of the match is when MVP stared down Ricochet Ricochet got sent to a table, and it was really personal between Ricochet and MVP because a month ago when Ricochet was trying to kiss up to MVP to join the Hurt Syndicate, and now Ricochet, he tried to hurt people. He tried to hurt the people that hurt people, but it ended up paying off for all 6 men involved because I think even with the Hurt Syndicate winning and becoming the new number one contenders for the Ops for their trios titles, the Hurt Syndicate looked great. MVP showed he can still go in ring. He might not be able to go 1-on-1, but he still puts in the work in tag team and trios matches and can tell a compelling story. Again, Ricochet, he's doing the best character work of his career. The Gates of Agony look great. It's not like they just disappeared after facing the Hurt Syndicate because they faced him a few months ago, and then that's also another reason why this makes a lot more sense. The Gates of Agony was the team that lost to the Hurt Syndicate, so they tried to get back at him. And even though they weren't successful, they went back after him, unlike the other tag teams that have faced the Hurt Syndicate. They didn't go back after him, they just disappeared, and when they came back, they didn't acknowledge that loss. The Gates of Agony didn't forget that, and they team with Ricochet to become the Demand. This was a great trilogy of trios matches. You don't need to happen again anytime soon, but in the future, if they run this back, let's just say the Hurt Syndicate do become trios champions and they hold the titles for a year, the Demand will be a good team to take it off of them. Or maybe but it's things like the Hurt Syndicate have already won tag titles. I hope they can win the trios titles, and it's a reason why I think that's going to happen this Wednesday, which I'm going to have to get into that later in this recap. I can't get into that now because I got to stay in order of the matches. In the next match, Cal Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe for the TNT Championship. This was a cool match. This was their fifth match, if I'm not mistaken. They've had 5 AEW matches that were 2-2 against each other. This was their fifth match, and Cal Fletcher, Briscoe, he had an elbow drop, running off the apron to deliver an elbow drop to Fletcher, who was on the outside of the ring. Fletcher, he launched Mark Briscoe onto the steel steps, like he just not like a power bomb, but something similar to that onto the steel steps. Briscoe attempted a J drill on the ring apron, which I was surprised. And then the ref got back into a corner. Fletcher was able to hit the low blow, and Mark Briscoe still kicked after that. But Cal Fletcher still ended up retaining regardless. But it was a fun match. Mark Briscoe matches are usually pretty entertaining. I like what Mark Briscoe does. Cal Fletcher is great too. I will say some of the fans for the show, some of the AEW fans throw me off, but this was a good match. I enjoyed this. Not too much from that match, but Cal Fletcher ended up retaining. Mark Briscoe wasn't going to beat him. He wasn't going to be the one. It just wouldn't have made sense. Not that Mark Briscoe is bad, because he isn't, but no need for Cal Fletcher to lose it now, because he just won it recently. So I like this match, and I like that Cal retained the title, because Mark Briscoe doesn't need the TNT Championship. It's kind of like, I don't know what you can do with Mark Briscoe because he's good, but I don't know if he's a championship material wrestler right now. Like, he can be in prominent feuds and in championship matches, but I feel like Mark Briscoe can really just float around anywhere. He can win matches, and he don't need to have a title to be relevant. Chris Statlander versus Tony Storm. They've been in various matches with each other throughout their careers in AEW. This was their first time going one-on-one with each other. Chris Statlander defended her recently, won AEW Women's World Championship versus Tony Storm in Tony's rematch for the title. Her one and only shot, no interferences, no outside involvement, none of that. Because quite frankly, wouldn't have made sense if anybody got involved. But sometimes it doesn't matter. But I'm glad that it was clean, down the middle, decisive winner. Tony Storm early on applied the side headlock to try to gain control of the bigger Chris Statlander. And then Chris, she was able to deliver multiple shoulder tackles, which had Tony Storm surprised. Tony kind of didn't know what to do early on in the match. And then there was one spot where Tony waited outside for Chris to hit a move, which was weird because it was obviously very telegraphed and you could have reversed it. I think she could have sold that better. They don't take away from the match, but I just think personally Tony could have sold that better. And then it was Chris Statlander has some very unique pins that she applies during matches that makes it hard for her opponents to kick out of. I like when she saves it for special matches like these versus Tony Storm. I think she needs to do that more. I say these special pins for certain matches. You don't got to do it every match. But like on the Dynamite, you don't need to do it. But for like World's End, which is gonna be the last pay-per-view of the year, like make that special, have that special, unique pin. Even though it might not win you the match, it's still going. Oh, that was unique. We gonna remember that stuff like that. And then Chris, he delivered a side suplex and a splash off the second rope. He did a tornado slash off the top, off the second rope. And Tony still kicked out, which I was surprised. I thought that was going to end it. Even though it was early, I was like, I ain't seen Chris Statlander move like this. I've never seen Chris Statlander move like this in a match. And then Tony Storm with the hip attack. Well, no, with the first attempt, Chris moved out the way, but she did get hit with it later. But Storm Zero by Tony Storm, and Chris actually reversed it. Like she put her hands down to protect herself from getting hit with the Storm Zero. She did get hit with it later, but she was able to kick out. Then Chris hit the aerial 451, and Tony was able to kick out back. And I like the aerial 451. I think that she'll win Chris Statlander a match in the future, even if that's her finisher, because it did. Chris Statlander did have to hit the Saturday's Fever to retain the Women's World Championship, which was the Women's Championship, which was on a Saturday, so it works out perfectly. But I like the aerial 451. That's probably one of my favorite Chris Statlander moves. I like to see utilized that because I don't think I've seen it in the Fatal 4-Way. And obviously, you can't get as many moves off in a Fatal 4-Way since there's so many moving pieces. But this was a good match. Chris Statlander retained. Mercedes came out after the match for whatever. Now, Mercedes' match was next, and then she wanted Chris to get out the ring immediately. And then Mercedes, I'm going to talk about that once we get to it. But Mercedes Moné, she had, she kind of just disrespected Chris Statlander, forcing her to get out the ring. And then Mercedes Moné, she wanted a challenge. She wanted somebody to put their title up against her title. And Ring of Honor interim women's champion Mina Shirakawa answered the challenge. So both the TBS title and Ring of Honor women's interim championship was on the line. And this was a solid match. Mercedes rolled through the arm through to try to fight a saving maker, but Mina wasn't going for it. She reversed it, that she learned from last time, the mistakes that she made. And I think she lost to that move in their last match that they had. So she's obviously studied the feeling and was able to reverse it. And then Monet, she walked over Mina twice. Like she walked over to get from the ropes and then to get back to the ropes to put pressure on her abdomen, to do something like, put more pressure on her abdomen to make Mina feel more pain throughout the match. And then Mina, she delivered a suplex plus a swing blade. And this match, it was a very technical match throughout their affair. And then it wasn't necessarily a ref bump, but the ref got back into the corner. And that allowed Mercedes took advantage of that, and she won by putting her foot on the bottom rope in the far right corner, and the referee didn't notice it. And Mercedes was shocked that she played it off because she didn't think that she was going to get away with it, and she played it off well, and she ended up winning the match to become now 11 belts Monet, which only 3 of those titles are from AEW, and one of those isn't even the actual title that can be defended. That's the Owen Hart Championship that she's still holding. That shouldn't count. She really has 10 belts. And then the Ring of Honor belt, Ring of Honor Interim Women's Championship, and the AEW TBS Championship. Those are the only 2 AEW belts she has. And the Owen Hart belt, like I said, but that was from her winning a tournament. So those are 3 AEW belts out of 11. The other 8 are from different promotions. So she has 3 AEW belts, not 11. She has 11 wrestling belts. So it is what it is. That's not my problem. Brodito versus Okada and Takeshita for the AEW World Tag Team titles. Bandito was isolated. Okada and Takeshita worked really well early on in the match. They isolated Bandito. It was just picking him apart. Okada delivered an elbow drop, and then he followed it with a middle finger. Then Okada and Takeshita, they got into a stare down in the middle of the ring, which this was a glaring issue leading up to this, that there was going to be problems because these guys, they can be in a tag team with each other. Like, these are 2 of the best in the world, especially in-ring talent-wise, for sure, 2 of the best. And then Okada delivered a neck breaker to Brody King, which was really cool. I put that in the thumbnail. That was one of my favorite neck breakers I've seen this year. Bandito hit a shooting star press, and he was able to attempt for a win. Wasn't able to get the win as the pin was broken up. Okada hit a mid-air drop kick to Bandito, which was really impressive. I enjoyed that. I was not expecting that. And then Okada accidentally, or not so accidentally, hit a rainmaker to catch him because he attempted it on Bandito, I think, but he moved out the way at the catch, ended up catching it. And Okada, he was like, oops. And then as Takeshita rode out the ring, Okada gave him the middle finger. And Don Callis didn't know what to say as he was on commentary. So I don't know what's going to happen with this. And then Okada actually took the pin. Bandito did his finisher with one hand to pin Okada, and Bandito and Brody King retained tag titles. Bandito gets a shot at the international, at the Unified Championship this Wednesday. He's probably going to lose, but it's going to be a good match. But this story with Okada and Takeshita, I'm liking the slow build. I'm liking the slow burn. Wasn't rocking with it at first, but now I see where they're going with it. And I'm starting to like the storyline more, and I can't wait for them to have their one-on-one match. If it was to end at World's End, that would be perfect, but Okada should get the win. I don't think Takeshita should win the match. I think Okada is... I just think it makes more sense for Okada to get the win compared to Takeshita, because he just won New Japan, the IWGP World Championship. And obviously Okada, he's the unified champion. I don't know how long he's going to hold it. Whether it's for a belt or not, I think giving the win to Okada would make more sense. And you can run it back in the future, because I think this has to be the end of their feud for now. And this is, or whoever Don Callis sides with, because I do like Don Callis as a manager. I think whoever he sides with, they should get the win. Like if he's going to side with Takeshita, have Takeshita get the win. If he's going to continue to rock with Okada, have Okada get the win. That's how I would book it. Now, Tony Storm and Mina Shirakawa had a backstage segment. Renee Paquette was trying to interview Tony Storm, and she was just shook. She was lost for words, disappointed, didn't know. I said lost for words. I don't have to say this again. But Renee couldn't get anything out of Tony Storm. Then Mina Shirakawa, she appeared, and that's when Tony finally spoke. And Tony was like, I lost it all. And these are not her exact words, so don't quote me for it. And then Mina was like, we lost it all, but we still have each other, which is very telling, because they had this women's tag team championship bracket being revealed to let Tony Khan is going to let the world know who was in the tag team tournament. Tony Storm and Mina Shirakawa have great tag team chemistry. They don't have to win the titles, but they can be in the tournament, be in the finals of it, and put another team over, because they both just lost championships, so they don't got to win championships instantly. But during this tournament, they can help build prestige instantly by just being in the tournament, being one of the teams that gets to the finals. Because I'm going to assume it's going to be 8 teams in the tournament. Let's just say they get to the finals and they lose to a Jamie Hayter and Queen Aminata. Because at the end of the day, you can pull off face versus face with a tournament. You can make it work. Or let's say that's a first round matchup and Queen Aminata and Jamie Hayter pull off the upset, and it's just constant struggle with Tony Storm and Mina Shirakawa. Like, they got to work together now. They both lost everything that they worked so hard for. Mina Shirakawa tried once again to dethrone Mercedes Moné. She wasn't able to do it. Tony Storm tried to get her title back from Chris Statlander. Wasn't able to do it. Now, they've always been good friends. Mina wasn't able to beat Tony Storm, and they've had multiple matches with each other and against each other, but they make a good tag team. They have good in-ring chemistry as well when they had their one-on-one matches. But now, what's next? You don't have to question what's next. It's likely that after this segment that they had backstage, they'll be one of the tag teams in the tag team tournament to determine the first ever AEW Women's Tag Team Champions. And I'm assuming it's going to be 8 teams, and I think they'll be one of those 8. But man, I like what I'm seeing. I like where this could go to. Then you had Hangman Adam Page defending his world championship versus Samoa Joe. The world championship wasn't the main event, which was surprising. Which I understand why, but at the end of the day, your world championship was shit close to show. Your world champ, and I understand why it didn't, but because it didn't have the best story going into it. Actually, I disagree. The best story should close the show, which the best story did close this show, but the world champion needs to start it. If the world champion doesn't have the best story, let the world champion start the show. You can't have the world championship match be right before the main event. They could have started the show instead of Tekla and Jamie Hayter. And I like Tekla and Jamie Hayter, especially Tekla. But you could have had, this would have been a big match to start the show, and the heel turn that you had at the end of it would have been so surprising to start the show with. Like, you did this right before the main event. This should have, but like I said, the best story should always close the show, but if the world champ, and the best story should usually be revolved around the world championship. Because even Chris Statlander and Tony Storm had a better story than Samoa Joe and Hangman going into this. And I like their placement on the card. And they were placed before a mid-card championship match. So either Chris Statlander or, and then it's for the women. So the women are usually middle of the card. Sometimes they start the show. They rarely main event, even though they could main event more. They weren't going to main event here. They didn't have it. The main event clearly had the best story. But Hangman and Samoa Joe should have started the show. So they didn't have the best story, but you knew they put on a good match. And then you had a surprise at the end with the heel turn. And Samoa Joe was just trash talking Hangman throughout the match. And Hangman, he took advantage of Samoa Joe's injured elbow. Joe delivered a STO, which wasn't enough for the win. Adam Page started no-selling a few punches. And Adam Page had to hit 3 straight buckshot lariats to take Samoa Joe down. Because one wasn't enough, 2 wasn't enough, a third one did, a third one was the charm. Then he won, then the Ops came out there, and it's like, why are the Ops just casually out there? So Samoa Joe is going to be fighting against 3 people. They don't need him. They don't need him, and he didn't need them to be out there. So it could have been, so when the Ops came out there, it was pretty obvious what was going to happen. And then now the promos that Samoa Joe was cutting, leading up to it, all makes sense now. And I was questioning, how does this make sense if Samoa Joe just helped them win? Samoa Joe got his respect for Hangman. None of that, all this makes sense now. The promos make a lot more sense now that I've seen the match happen and seen it play out. And even though Samoa Joe lost, heel turn, Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, Shibata, the Ops, they all attack Hangman. Like I said, I think the Ops going to lose the trios titles, and it's going to be a result of Hangman making them lose because they not turned on them, but they turned heel, showed a different side of themselves, attacking Hangman and becoming bad guys. So Hangman could get revenge by making them lose the trios titles to the Hurt Syndicate on Dynamite, which should start the show. It should either start or end the show. That'd be a perfect way to do it. And then you could have some going right into Collision. Because if it starts the show, you could have something that that's the main event segment for Collision. Or if it ends the show, or if it ends Dynamite, that can be the opener for Collision. And you got ways to go with this. And if you put it in the middle of the show, it might not feel as important. But Hangman and Samoa Joe had a good match. Samoa Joe gonna get another match. He still won't win the world title, but this feud is starting to make a lot more sense now. And hopefully the next time that Hangman puts his title on the line is in a main event match on a pay-per-view. And before I get to the main event, I got to talk about Mercedes Moné challenging Chris Statlander at Full Gear November 22nd. I'm not a fan of it. And it's nothing against Mercedes Moné, but she has 11 championships, and 3 of them, like I said, are from AEW. And one of those 3 is a title that's not even defended. It's just a title you win from a tournament. So I don't know why she still has it. That don't make sense to me. But Chris Statlander, there should be other things for her to do. You have other women on the roster. Take advantage of that. Utilize those other women more. You're going to start doing that with the tag team division. But don't have Chris Statlander and Mercedes when they fight each other. You have other women. You have Rio, who you just used. You have Nina Shirakawa, who I guess you just lost. But you have Tekla, who just, even though she lost, she put on a great match with a former world champion. Why not have her go after Chris Statlander? She could still lose. Chris Statlander just won it, but put Tekla in that spotlight to try to establish her more. Even if she loses, she's still putting on good matches with a former world champion and the world champion now. If you give her a match with Chris Statlander, utilize the other women that you have, and I'm sure there's women from Ring of Honor. Use Athena, use Billy Starks even. Use Billy Starks to advance the story. You use her against Mercedes. Why not do it again? Have Athena drop the Ring of Honor belt. Have Athena and Billy Starks feud a lap over into AEW. maybe they have a match on at a pay-per-view, and Billie Starkz become Ring of Honor Women's World Champion. Well, I don't know why it's an interim Women's World Champion, because I don't know if Athena is injured or not. She could be. I would have to check on that, because I don't remember Athena ever losing it. I'm pretty sure her reign just extended and got longer. So I don't know. If anybody can let me know in the comments, I'll check after the stream. Yeah, I'll make sure to check once I get done with this. I want to watch an interim Ring of Honor Women's World Champion unless Athena got injured or something. But yeah, I don't like Mercedes and Chris Statlander challenging for the world title, especially Mercedes not going to put the TBS title on the line. It's not like Chris Statlander needed. She don't need to win a mid-card title. But even though Mercedes had all these belts, she already lost to Toni Storm. So what's the point of going after the title again? We already lost to Toni Storm. And I get that Chris Statlander is yet to beat Mercedes Moné, but this is not the time to do that. Not while Mercedes is still a mid-card champion for AEW. No, you could say that for later. You didn't need to do this match now. You could have said that for down the line in 2026. We don't need to see this until Mercedes is no longer the TBS champion. But the main event match, which I will now talk about, Darby Allin, Jon Moxley, I Quit match, easily had the best story going into this pay-per-view. Hands down, no questions asked. Not even 5 minutes into the match, Darby Allin was already bleeding. But like I said, this match had a great story going into it. It made sense why I main evented. And then there were other things that happened throughout the match. But sure, it's an I Quit match, so it got a lot of stuff happened. And people were mad at the ending. I'm actually explaining why I like the ending and why it made sense to me. Because throughout the match, Darby Allin, he instantly choked out Jon Moxley with the flag. Even though he vowed that's how he would win, that wasn't going to happen. When you vow how you're going to win, you're likely going to lose. And if you do win, that's not how you're going to win. We know how wrestling works. Marina Shafir got involved multiple times. Moxley hit a pile driver. Then he hit Darby with his belt on a few different occasions throughout the match. And then Darby, he found like this chemical spray that he sprayed Moxley with, and then the other Left Riders tried to get involved. He sprayed them with it as well. Claudio, he launched Darby onto the announce table. He threw him like 8 to 10 feet. I was like, damn, he just destroyed Darby. He just threw his ass. I was like, oh my goodness. And then Jon Moxley hit the Death Rider to Darby through the table. And Darby just simply wouldn't give up. He wouldn't say, I quit. Anytime the ref tried to ask him something, he told the ref to shut the fuck up. He simply told him, shut the fuck up and get out of my face. That's the energy that Darby was bringing. It was like, I'm not quitting. I'm not saying those words. I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep fighting. So he continues to fight. And Jon Moxley, he's getting frustrated at this point. He's like, holy hell, what do I need to do? The Death Riders get a fucking aquarium. They fill it with water. And then Jon Moxley uses that trying to force Darby to say, I quit. All they did was wash off his face paint. Because he wasn't saying I quit. He wasn't. Then the lights go out, come back on, and Sting catches a turn. And Moxley is shocked. He got this shot blood on his face. He don't know what the hell is going on. Then Claudio and Pac try to get in the ring, and Sting hits both of them with the bat. Then Sting gives the bat to Darby Allin, who Darby utilizes it. He hits Moxley in the legs a few times, and then he uses Sting's moveset to win the match. Scorpion Death Drop. Then he uses his own Coffin Drop. Then he uses the Scorpion Death Lock to make Moxley say I quit. Now, people had a problem with this because it's like all this stuff that was used. Moxley got way more offense in. How did Darby win? Moxley didn't win because, although Jon Moxley out-wrestled Darby Allin won because he was simply smarter and more strategic than Jon Moxley. Late into he's already choked out Jon Moxley multiple times. He used the flag. He vowed that he was going to win with the flag. We knew that wasn't happening. But he used it multiple times to apply pressure to Jon Moxley's neck. And this just goes to the toughness of Darby Allin. He went through the aquarium. He fought 2-on-5 essentially with the minimal help of Sting. He used his mentor's signature moves that only Sting has used to win matches. There's other people who tried to replicate it and might have won a match or two here and there, but that was Sting's entire career. That was his mentor. So he used his mentor's move to beat John Moxley. And Moxley, I never think he went one-on-one with Sting. He might have had some tag team matches in AEW. Don't think they ever had a one-on-one match while Sting was active in AEW. But Darby Allin is so crazy that John Moxley knew that Darby was never going to say I quit. He already knew this. He did everything he could to make him say I quit. But once he realized that wasn't happening, and once he got hit in the knees, like that bat hurts hard as hell. Getting hit with a bat, you don't want that experience. So the fact that even though it didn't take as much for Moxley to say I quit, and that was the only scenario where he was forced to say those two words, it made sense because Darby is crazy and he will do anything he can to get the win. He wasn't going to say I quit. He was going to push Moxley to his limits. He had Moxley even say, these people don't care about you. The ref doesn't care about you. I care about you. Just quit. Those were the words that came out of John Moxley's mouth. Those were the words. And once he realized Darby wasn't giving up, he knew there was no way he could win this unless he literally killed him. And even that, he tried it, and it still didn't work with the aquarium and pushing his face down in the water. Even that wasn't enough to put Darby Allin away. So he's so crazy, and I think John Moxley wanted to put Darby Allin over because they've been feuding. Because this didn't just start. They've been feuding for a while. It just got put on halt because Darby Allin decided to climb Mount Everest. But I think John Moxley wanted to lose this match, and they did it the right way. Darby Allin winning like this was a good decision, in my opinion. But with all of that being said, I think I would give AEW WrestleDream an 8.5 out of 10. It was a great pay-per-view. I enjoyed it. I think, like I said, it was just a few problems I had. The Hook and Eddie Kingston match, I felt like wasn't necessary. And I did talk about all 13 matches, and out of the 13, it was only 2 matches I had a problem with, and it was multiple segments. It was only one segment I had a problem with. The other match was just FTR versus Jet Speed bleeding into the main card. That should have ended the pre-show, not been still active while the main show starts. But that's a effect of Eddie Kingston and Hook having their match that they didn't need. And then Mercedes challenger Chris Statlander, didn't like that either. But overall, it was a great pay-per-view. I don't know where I would rank it in terms of AEW pay-per-views this year. I would have to go back and see because I'm just looking, because I ain't compared it to no other pay-per-views. I'm just talking about WrestleDream and in its essence in WrestleDream. I ain't compared it to any of the other pay-per-views that AEW has put on. This, I can definitely say it's one of their best of the year. Is it their best? I don't know. I had to check my other notebook, to see where I would rank it. But 8.5 out of 10, great pay-per-view. Make sure y'all leave a like on this video if you're watching the playback. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, share for others to see. I hope y'all enjoyed this live stream. I'll probably do more of these, just recapping pay-per-view events. Probably get some people on next time. But I hope y'all enjoyed this. I hope y'all enjoyed WrestleDream. WrestleDream was a great pay-per-view. And yeah, a shout out to Darby Allin. That's probably the I Quit match is probably the best one on the WrestleDream card. I forgot to say which match I thought was the best. Either that or the 2 best matches from WrestleDream was Darby Allin making John Moxley say I quit in their I Quit match, and Chris Statlander retaining versus Tony Storm. Those were the 2 best matches from WrestleDream, in my opinion. And like I said, like, comment, subscribe, and share for others to see.